What's going on, people? Glad you are back again. We're going to talk about Pfizer this time. We're on our lobbying series, right? Washington Lobbyists versus your vote. And again, people, this is one of those reasons why I believe that the democratic system is just not the same as it was back when the founding fathers formed and wrote the Constitution. Right? There's just too many variables, too much money involved, too many multinational corporations, right? Too many hands in the pot. And this is something I'm sure the founding fathers could not have foreseen. So when people say, hey, we live in a democracy, right, run by the people for the people, I believe that they should rethink that, because yes, on paper that's how it sounds, but things have changed so much in a few hundred years that this is not what was intended by the forefathers. And this is why I try to tell people to rethink their positions as far as this whole red and blue, conservative, Democrat, liberal, conservative ideology, right? It's really just a divide and conquer strategy to keep the common people, fighting against each other constantly and not being able to focus on what actually is going on. You have these politicians in office that they're they're supporting and passing bills that we don't even know exist right under our noses, because we're so distracted and fighting over all this nonsense, whether it's a flat earth, whether the moon landing was faked, whether there's a moon period, fighting over transgender, the definition of a woman. All this stuff keeps people fighting, right? The whole liberal, conservative hoax, Republican, Democrat hoax. We see that Biden has finally stepped down. And if you guys saw my video that I made about this a few weeks ago during the debate, that was easy play to see, and I predicted that in my video, that they just threw him out there so that they could get that replacement ready. And so that has come to pass. And like I said, it's so easy and simple and plain to see that it's definitely orchestrated. If a regular person that has no foothold in politics whatsoever can see the obvious, right, that this man was going senile, having dementia, Parkinson's, or what have you, or at least showing these type of symptoms, they surely knew. And just to parade that out in front of the people, it shows you the disdain, basically, for lack of a better word, that those elitists have for the common people. They think that people are stupid, gullible, naive, and unfortunately, I have to say, for the most part, it is true. People as a whole, en masse, are very, very gullible, very naive, easily manipulated, as you can see by a lot of commentary after the Trump situation. People, I was reading comments where people were saying God put Trump here to save America and all of this ridiculous stuff. And it's funny because Americans often accuse other countries of being extremist, right, or having extremist elements or extreme religious elements, right, especially those that practice Islam. They want to throw that label on them, extremists and radicals and all that stuff like that. There's a lot of radicals in this country, a lot of religious extremists in this country, but they won't call it that. They were like, oh, we just love God. So the stupidity is definitely real, and this is what the elites play on. That people are going to be dumb, easily manipulated, whether the news story is fake, real, fake narratives. You see the guy is senile, can't speak right in front of you, but you let somebody come out and tell you that, oh, he just has COVID, or he's just tired or something like that, even though it's right in front of you, and then you'll still go and vote for the guy, right? Or you'll let the media tell you that one side is completely squeaky clean and righteous, and the other side is scandalous and corrupt, which is totally ridiculous. You have two guys. I'm sorry I went off on a little tangent here, but you have two guys, in Trump and Biden, that have been in politics for a very long time. Biden, a little bit longer than Trump, but Trump has been in the public eye for a long time, at least over 50 years. I mean, I'm from New York, and I remember New York City, that is, and I remember Trump when I was a little kid. Right, he was just a real estate guy, but he was known in New York. Right, he was known. Kind of looks the same. Just a younger version. And listen, any guy that's like a billionaire that's been in business that long, they're gonna have their share of scandals. There's no way you're gonna become a billionaire and you just squeaky clean all your business dealings, transactions. So there's no doubt in my mind that if you want to dig, there's a lot of dirt, a lot of scandals with women, whatever, with him. But to paint a picture that, okay, this guy is dirty, but the other guy is 100% clean, is ridiculous. And these are the types of narratives we get. If you listen to the Democratic side, it's like Trump is evil. They made all these comparisons to Adolf Hitler. It was ridiculous. All this stuff like that. It's just the worst of the worst, right? Just avoiding issues, and it's just character assassinations. And then you see it from the other side, right? Biden, they bring up the Hunter Biden situation, the dealings with the Ukraine, all this stuff like that. And they say, look, this guy is corrupt. We got to get him out of there. Put this guy in. But the joke is on you, people. Both sides are corrupt. Don't think like there's no corruption. It's too much money involved. We're talking about trillions, billions of dollars. We're talking about a lot of power. All these guys are corrupt. You basically being involved in the show to make it seem like you're actually choosing, who's gonna be elected and all of these things like that. Right? There's a lot going on behind the scenes. But to think that one side is righteous, other side is evil, come on. They're just like regular people. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. You just kind of try to pick the side that kind of fits more of your ideology more than the other side. But all of this extremism and all this stuff is stupid. And this is what the media plays upon. So now we're going to get back into this lobbying, right? We're going to talk about Pfizer. The last time I spoke was about Facebook. And as you can see here is from the site Open Secrets. It's a public site where you can find a lot of good information on these type of things. And again, I'm not going to go into the rabbit hole. This is just like scratching the tip of the iceberg. But I'm going to just put some things together, and this will show some proof of how little the public vote has anything to do with the legislation that gets passed. So check it out. So here we have Pfizer. We see that in 2023, they spent about $14 million in lobbying, right? And you can see by this chart down here, annual lobbying. Pretty much since 2010, they average a little under $15 million a year. All right, now we're going to go into some of the bills they lobbied for in 2023. And again, a lot of it is, just some benign looking stuff. We see Pharmacy Benefit Manager Transparency Act. And that's why I said it's a rabbit hole, because you will have to go through all of these acts to see exactly what they consist of, because all of these acts, they always have like positive names to them. And I find the ones with the most positive sounding names are usually the worst. So for instance, you have this one down here where my cursor is, Affordable Prescriptions for Patients Act of 2023. Right? That sounds great. Who doesn't want affordable prescriptions, right? Medical Supply Chain Resiliency Act, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of bills that get passed. You don't hear anything about, and these things are getting lobbied on constantly. And the way to keep the people distracted is just by, you put like Puff Daddy in the news for 2-3 weeks. When something important is going on, right? You put some kind of scandal. You throw R. Kelly on the news. Oh, R. Kelly might get out of jail or something like that. You throw some salacious activity. You get this guy, whoever it was, Dylan Mulvaney, and the man dressed like a woman in the bathtub for the Bud Light commercial. People are fighting over that. Meanwhile, all these little laws are being lobbied on, and these are very important because you would think, like, why would companies say like Pfizer want to be involved in all of these different actions? And so you're going to see, I'm going to use one example. Like I said, I'm not even going to go in a rabbit hole, but I'm going to just make a quick connection here. And we're going to go into the COVID era. Bills lobbied by Pfizer in 2021. So check this one out. So 2021, I'm going to go down. And again, I'm not going to go through all of these bills, but there was one in particular that I did look into. And you could look into it also. Where was it? Here it is, right here on the bottom. I'll highlight the one on the very bottom. It's this one. Should be highlighted in blue right now, or maybe gray on your screen. And this is the asset seizure. It's HR 6930. HR means House of Representatives. Asset seizure for Ukraine Reconstruction Act. Okay, this is 2021. So the first question I had in my mind was, why would a biomedical company, right, Pfizer, want to support a bill, asset seizure for Ukraine Reconstruction Act? So that stood out to me like a sore thumb. Everything else seemed like something normal, that, okay, whatever, these medical bills, affordable prescriptions, etc. All right, it fits the industry, so to speak. But this one stood out like a sore thumb. Why would Pfizer want to support a bill like this? Asset seizure for Ukraine Reconstruction Act. So the first thing I had to do was look up, the details of this. The Asset Seizure Reconstruction Act. So let's do that. Okay. So here we go. Here's a press release. Again, that was 2021. The bill was first introduced. It takes a while for these bills to go through the House of Representatives and work their way around. So here's a press release. This is it says Sheldon Whitehouse. Then it says he's the U.S. Senator for Rhode Island. So this is from his site, right? And it says Whitehouse. That's the guy's last name. Right, so his name is Sheldon Whitehouse, who's the Democrat, Rhode Island. So Whitehouse, Graham, Wilson, Cohen introduced bipartisan, bicameral, so House and everybody supporting it, right? Both parties, Republican. Remember, that it's the flip side of the same coin. Remember that. Both parties are supporting it. That's your bipartisan. Bicameral means the House of Representatives and the Senate, right? Legislation, so everybody's in full agreement with this legislation to what? To seize Russian oligarch assets to aid Ukraine. So the oligarchs are like the big Russian titans, right, that control the oil over there, like the billionaires. They want to seize this bill. They want to seize the Russian oligarch assets to aid Ukraine. It says the Asset Seizure for Ukraine Reconstruction Act would allow DOJ, or Department of Justice, to more quickly seize and transfer Russian oligarchs' private jets, yachts, and other high-value assets. Washington, D.C. Today, Senators Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat, Rhode Island, and Lindsey Graham, Republican, South Carolina, together with Representatives Joe Wilson, Republican, South Carolina, and Steve Cohen, Democrat, Tennessee, introduced the bipartisan bicameral Asset Seizure for Ukraine Reconstruction Act. The bill would allow the Department of Justice to seize high-value assets owned by sanctioned Russian oligarchs more quickly through existing administrative forfeiture processes and transfer the proceeds from those assets to Ukraine. Senators Richard Blumenthal, Democrat, Connecticut, Jim Risch, Republican, and Michael Bennet, Democrat, Colorado, co-sponsored the legislation. All right, so then it says Putin and his oligarch cronies launder their dirty money by purchasing super yachts, priceless artwork, and other high-value assets in rule of law nations. We must shutter the sanctuaries for oligarch riches and punish the enablers propping up Putin, said Senator Whitehouse. Right, so that sounds great. Again, there's always two sides of every story, right? And somewhere in between it is the third side, which is the truth. So that's that side being put up, is that, hey, we're on some righteous mission to stop them from laundering dirty money, and we're gonna take this money, we're gonna take these assets, and we're gonna support Ukraine, right? This unjust war against the Ukraine. That and it sounds great. All right. Getting this bipartisan bill over the finish line will give the Biden administration the tools it needs. So in other words, they don't have the tools yet. They need this extra push to seize oligarchs' ill-gotten assets more expeditiously and repurpose them to support Ukraine. Now let me ask you, does that what does that sound like? That sounds very fishy, right? I mean to believe that this is right. Of all the problems in the United States, like homelessness, right, crime elevating, gas prices, mortgage prices, rent, all this stuff, right? Out of all of these, all of the price of all of the things going on, veterans, homelessness, mental illness, you got the border situation, migrants in New York. Try to come to New York City sometime. You'll meet some migrants. All of these problems right in this country. Student loan debt. I mean, we could keep going on. All of the problems. The best idea this guy, Senator Whitehouse, Sheldon Whitehouse, could come up with is, hey, let's tax these Russian oligarchs. Let's take their stuff and then give the money to the Ukraine. He didn't even say let's take their assets and repurpose the money into the United States government and pay down this debt or help the people here. He said no, let's take the money and help the Ukraine and help Ukraine. See, these are the type of things going on. These are the type of people that you're putting in office. You're electing these people, and then they go do stuff like this that you probably don't want in cosign. So if the government is for the people, by the people, then why are actions being done that the people wouldn't even support? See, what's going on is that they're making sure you don't even know about it. By the time you learn about it, it's too late. Maybe a few people know about it, it's too late. They keep that's the stuff they keep they'll keep that out of the media. They'll put that like on the side, the back burner. You might hear a quick mention about it. No, what they want to keep in your face is, white cop shot a black dude at a Burger King or something like. They want to keep the race hustle going constantly. Sexy Red was at a school, right? She was twerking at the school. That's what they want to keep in front of you constantly. Oh, Puff Daddy, Cuba Gooding Jr. had his hand on some dude's lap on the yacht. Me Too, the Me Too move. They want to keep the nonsense in front of you while this type of stuff is going on. So you going to work, working hard, and this is what your tax money is going to. I wonder, with any of these senators and House of Representatives, how many of their constituents actually wanted something like this? Did they ask the constituents, hey, do you want to get this bill passed to support Ukraine and all this stuff like that? So, of course, they want to make their cause sound righteous. Then it says, dictators like Putin care only about themselves and their cronies, said Senator Graham. Of course, when somebody is on the bad side, they call him dictator. They use these words. Like Saddam Hussein became a dictator at some point, even though at some point he also was an ally of the United States. But when you're on the other side, now you're a dictator. And, you have to use the the words that justify the action against them. All right. All the Russian oligarchs, Putin's partners in crime, should lose their yachts, luxury apartments, and pay a price for being part of a thuggish group, a nation state that is really a mafia state. I want to see the Department of Justice, Treasury, and law enforcement partners go in and take apartments, fine art, and seize yachts from a bunch of thugs and crooks. That they have more energy. They have more energy for that than the war on drugs and cartels and gang culture, anything like that. Imagine if they had that same energy, right, to stop gang violence in Chicago or something like that. There were 81 people shot in Chicago over the July 4th weekend. I believe I think it was 81 or 87, something like that, high 80s. We know it was way too high. You don't see the energy for that. So that tells me, again, when you don't know, fill in the blank. When you don't know, follow the money. So that's what we're gonna do. While this energy to we have this great dedication to Ukraine. Again, war criminal. Next paragraph. War criminal Putin's oligarchs have placed a major role in financing the mass murder of Ukrainians while lining their own pockets and benefiting from freedoms they actively work to destroy. Right? That sounds very poetic. This common sense legislation provides a clear mechanism to expedite the seizure of Putin-connected illicit assets and transfer those funds to support Ukraine. Putin and his cronies will be held accountable for the death and destruction they have caused, said Congressman Wilson. Again, all this energy. We must do all we can to assist Ukraine and should include making use of forfeited Russian assets to defend and rebuild, said Congressman Cohen. That's the other one. Corruption we have uncovered through whistleblowers and the Magnitsky Act is staggering. Rather than line the pockets of Putin's friends, these assets should be used to support the Ukrainian people and rebuild their institutions in the face of Russian aggression. Again, lot of energy here, right? And the way I see it, if you had this much energy to rebuild in this country and do the things, I mean, you talking about make America great again? Goodness gracious! Like I've never read like congressmen or senators speak with that much vigor about any issue in this country here. Whether it's like bringing crime down, right, getting improving the educational system, nothing like that. But there's a whole bunch of energy for this. Why is that? Right, and then it just goes on and again talks about, it's basically more and more propaganda, and saying the same thing and basically trying to justify the action that the bill calls for. All right. And of course, here you see it says the legislation is supported by Razom for Ukraine and Foreign Policy for America. So after reading to you, some excerpts from that, I ask you once again, my friends, why? What does a biochemical company have to do with it? Why would Pfizer be involved? And now you're about to see. Now this is from the Russian news agency. Now you're gonna hear another side. I'm not telling you to believe or not believe. I'm telling you to hear both sides of the story, just like you in court. Imagine you're the judge. So you heard the one side, right? You heard the senators and House of Representatives from the United States. You see also that Pfizer is supporting the bill. I showed you that already. Right? I showed you that already. Let's go back. Here it is. So I showed you that already with the asset seizure for Ukraine Reconstruction Act. That is public knowledge. So again, I asked a question. Why would a biochemical company interested in such an act in Ukraine? for this act to be passed. Why would they support it? It's weird. Let's look at what the other side has to say. So now here's the Russians, accused of being aggressor. Here's what they have to say. Military. So this is from the TASS.com, TASS.com, Russian news agency. And of course it's translated. So forgive some of the there might be some errors with the translation. So, military operation in Ukraine. This is from May 11th, 2022. So this is before the article before this bill was actually passed. Okay? Or introduced. So you see it was introduced in 2023. Pfizer was already, this is from 2021. So it was already in the House of Representatives at that time. But let's go. So this article says Pfizer, Moderna, another company involved in U.S. military biological activities in Ukraine. It's his top brass. Again, some of the translation is going to be messed up. But this is from the Russian news site. So therefore, they're saying that there are ulterior motives at stake. Again, I'm not telling you what to believe, but just looking at everything, right? If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, I see that this biomedical company is supporting this bill of asset seizure, which is weird. Like, why would they want the the asset seized? Why would they have any stake in some kind of military conflict? According to Chief of Russian Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Protection Force Igor Kirillov, American specialists are working on testing new medical drugs in circumvention of international safety standards. And again, haven't we seen this before? Haven't we seen Tuskegee experiments, right? When they were injecting the black people and stuff like that. Haven't we seen in the book Acid Dreams, how in the 60s people were getting dosed with LSD and all this stuff without their knowledge. So these things happen. Let's not act like, oh my God, what's going on? Let's not act like these things don't happen. Let's not act like in Africa, in these areas where people are starving, these refugee camps, that a lot of these companies don't go over there and administer experimental drugs under the guise of aid and vaccinization and things like that. So that's basically what the Russians are saying here. So Moscow, May 11th, COVID-19 vaccine manufacturers Pfizer and Moderna were involved in U.S. military and biological activities in Ukraine. Chief of Russian Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Protection Force Igor Kirillov said on Wednesday. He noted that the ideologists, again, forget the translation, of U.S. military and biological activities in Ukraine are the leaders of the Democratic Party. Kirillov specified that the U.S. executive authorities form the legislative basis for financing military biological research directly from the federal budget. Again, we have the bill. In particular, funds from non-governmental organizations under their control were attracted. See, there you go. Non-governmental organizations under their control. Large pharmaceutical companies are involved in this scheme, including Pfizer, Moderna, Merck, as well as Gilead, a company affiliated with the U.S. military department, Kirillov said. According to the Chief of Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Protection Force, American specialists are working on testing new medical drugs in circumvention of international safety standards. What's the international safety standards? Remember the whole thing with COVID, how people were protesting against the mandates and stuff because the way the vaccine was being presented and sped up, right? They were using this idea of, hey, it's emergency, egregious circumstances. So everything was being pushed through. It wasn't going through the normal safety parameters of having clinical trials. Usually takes about 10 years for something to get to the market. But they use this emergency, air quote, situation to speed up the distribution. So this is kind of like what this guy is saying here, right? That they're testing new medical drugs in circumvention of international safety standards, right? As a result, Western companies seriously reduced the cost, again, follow the money, reduce the cost of research programs. So for instance, to run a clinical trial in America, you got to follow all of these rules and do all of this stuff. Now, say if you could go to another country, like let's say like Cameroon or something like that, under the guise, there's a humanitarian crisis, for example, like Darfur, right? There's a humanitarian crisis, and you say, hey, we just want to help the people. We'll give them the free medicine, blankets, water, etc., etc. But we're gonna air quotes vaccinate against disease and malaria and things like that. This is where that stuff happens. So same thing with the Ukraine. Hey, we just want to help. We're just there, right, to make sure we stop the humanitarian crisis, etc., etc. And therefore, the laws, the normal protocol to bring these medicines to market, if you will, then can be easily circumvented, right? We're in a war zone. We don't have time, or we don't have the resources and facilities to go through the proper protocol. So therefore, this is our reason where we can justifiably push through these new medications, if you will, upon the public. And of course, this is all funded by taxpayers' money. So, where was I? Campaign financing. Here we go. We'll go back. According to the Chief of Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Protection Force, American specialists are working on testing new medical drugs in circumvention of international safety standards. As a result, Western companies seriously reduce the cost of research programs and gain significant competitive advantages, he stressed. The leaders of the Democratic Party, Kirilov added, have gained additional campaign financing through participation in the program of non-governmental biotechnology organizations. It also helps them conceal financial distributions. Along with the U.S. pharmaceutical companies and Pentagon contractors, Ukrainian government agencies are involved in military biotechnology activities whose main tasks are to conceal illegal activities, conduct field and clinical trials, and provide the necessary biomaterial, Kirilov said. Again, can we prove that? We can't prove everything. It's just one of those things that you read both sides, and then you got to kind of, pick and choose, like, okay, this sounds more likely. You use Occam's razor, right? Occam's razor is what's most likely to have occurred. Looking at taking all the information that you do have, think of what's most likely to have happened or is happening. According to the Chief of Radiation, Chemical, they keep putting this whole thing in Biological Protection Force, U.S. Defense Department has greatly expanded the research potential not only in the field of creation of biological weapons, but also to obtain information on antibiotic resistance and the presence of antibodies to certain diseases among the population in specific regions. In doing so, it used the facilities of multinational companies and a testing ground that was practically outside the control of the international community. So, again, that's one of those things. Do you want to take that 100% and say, yeah, this side is right, this side is wrong? Or do you want to just put it all together and decide, listen, I see that Pfizer is supporting this bill in the Ukraine. And then you dig a little further. Like I said, any one of these things, you can go into a deep rabbit hole. Right? So I've read that to you. I showed that Pfizer is connected and supporting this bill. Again, it doesn't make sense unless there's some truth to this, that they're getting some type of benefit. Remember, follow the money. So let's keep going. Remember, we had these senators and congressmen that are so zealous about it. Yes, we need to get this money from these oligarchs and support Ukraine. Because you got to remember, they need the funding. So you can't go back to the people and say, hey, we want to get more money for Ukraine. The people aren't having it. So where you going to get the money from? You got to get the money from another way. So you pass this bill, you're not asking the people to raise their taxes, and you're getting a whole bunch of money, right? It's almost like some type of you just using your force to take people's belongings, resell them, and now you're funding operation. It reminds me of in the 80s when they had the Iran-Contra scandal, when they were taking the like the narcotics, and then they were funding the I believe it was the Sandinistas down in South America. See, that way you don't have to raise the people's taxes officially, because the people will get mad like, oh, you're raising our taxes. We don't want to support, these nationals in another country or whatever. So where you gonna get the money from? So they're like, all right, we'll use the narcotic money. It sounds like a similar situation where they want to get this funding. They don't want to ask for more money and higher taxes because they might not get reelected. So therefore, they come up with this way. Hey, we'll do it this way. We'll get the money, like this. So let's look into it a little further. So remember, I showed you the article with these senators and Congressman, House of Representative guys, led by Sheldon Whitehouse, right? U.S. Senator for Rhode Island, introducing this bill. So now, I'm going to show you from going back to the same site, the Open Secret site. Members of Congress invested in Pfizer. Can you guys see that there? There you go. Members of Congress invested in Pfizer. Let's see if we can find let's see if we can find a familiar name here. There's a lot. I'm not gonna stop at every one. Boom. But here's one of the guys right here. First guy in the article. Sheldon Whitehouse. Can you see that? I know I'm not on live, but yeah, you can see it. Sheldon Whitehouse. It should be gray right here. Democrat. Right? And it's saying that he has between $15,000 and $50,000 invested in Pfizer. Okay, and again, some of them have more. The highest amount is up at the top. Like this guy, Jim Sensenbrenner, has $1 million to $5 million invested. So I'm not gonna go through every one, but I just wanted to show you that. Again, follow the money. So this guy has his investment, and that's just what's disclosed, ladies and gentlemen. Again, there's all type of ways to skin a cat. Like, don't be naive and say, oh, well, I didn't see the guy's name there. He must not be invested. People have family members that might not be in office. The wife could invest, sister-in-law, and there's all type of ways. So don't fall for the okie doke. Like, oh, I didn't see the guy's name here. You just happen to see this guy here, Sheldon Whitehouse, and of course he pushing this bill. Let's go a little further. Right? Let's go a little further. Ukraine Business Council. And it's amazing things that you can find when you're not like distracted by like nonsense news. Guess what's going on? Again, like I said, while you looking and trying to find out who they showing you videos about who killed Tupac and all this stuff and Biggie. And the thing that is crazy about it, they act like they don't know who did it. They drag stuff out 20, 30 years and it's a mystery, and they profit, right? They put all these TV shows and documentaries. They know damn well who did all of these things. Same with the OJ situation. They know who all this stuff already. It's just they play the game with the public like, oh, we don't know, and it's up in the air and this and that. Then people speculating, right? These are the things that keep you entertained and distracted off of the important things. Watching what these guys are doing. Right? So then you go at work and you be like, yo, man, I wonder you heard about Jam Master Jay? Like they finally got they knew who did it from the beginning. It's just it's a game. It's a game. Distraction game, dragging stuff out, right? A lot of players involved, so you can't, you know what I mean? You can't, sometimes you can't disrupt certain things. Gotta wait till certain times. Timing has to be right. Let's look at this, right? U.S.-Ukraine Business Council. And it says a strong international voice for business in Ukraine now, promoting U.S.-Ukraine business relations since 1995, Washington, D.C. All right. So now, here's an announcement. This is from April 6, 2021. Hold on 1 second. All right, so continuing to follow the money. It said Ukraine has signed an agreement with Pfizer for the supply of 10 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine. Right, and there we go, Vladimir Zelensky, office of the president of Ukraine, right, Kyiv, Ukraine. And then again, this is at the height of the pandemic. Ukraine has signed an agreement with the American pharmaceutical corporation Pfizer for the supply for 10 million doses vaccine against COVID-19, which was agreed on in February. And then it just goes on to basically today's a very important day for Ukrainians. We have finally signed an important contract with Pfizer for the supply of 10 million doses of the vaccine. Right, it was very difficult to do so, and it just goes on. Thanks and gratitude, and all of these things. And then again, Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla, during which Pfizer CEO promised to do everything possible to ensure that Ukraine receive the first batches of the vaccine under the contract as soon as possible. So I'm not even gonna go. There's a lot more that can be researched on about that, but I just wanted to scratch the tip of the iceberg. And you can already see this video is like 40 minutes long. I know the first 10 minutes I was talking about something else, so that's just 30 minutes and just on this one particular bill. And of course I can go deeper into the relationship with this company in Ukraine and things like that, but I just wanted to show you, though, when you put all of that together, do you think that your vote really matters? Right? If you cared one way or another, if you voted and you were really against, sending money over there to the Ukraine, or getting this bill passed or anything like that, does not matter. It's too much money involved. You have all of these congressmen, senators, and politicians invested in Ukraine. Right? You have the United States government being involved, right, with the corporation. It's like the corporations are like the fingers and hands of the government, right? So all of these connections is too great. It's too much money to be involved. So now you can see why a company like Pfizer would want to support this act, right, where the Russian oligarchs' yachts and paintings and stuff like that are being taken away, so the money can be repurposed to support Ukraine. You can see why they would support an act like that, right? You support, you wash one hand, you wash that hand washes your hand. We'll support this bill. We'll get you more money in your country. Hey, you sign this contract with us. The senators are like, hey, we'll push it through. Who knows what benefits they got for coming up with the bill, right? That's it's a big rabbit hole. Like if you did research on that, you might find something about certain benefits those senators had. Maybe they had free stock, or family members were given something. I'm not saying that because I didn't see that. I only seen one of the senators, Sheldon Whitehouse, who actually had stock. But again, you should be able to see enough a connection there to understand this is really how the country is ran. All right. And again, most of these bills and things are getting passed, you don't even know about it. So you're electing these dudes to office thinking that they're there for you. They're not. They're there for themselves and for the power that office brings. They're there oftentimes being used and manipulated by these multinational corporations to do their bidding and to get these laws passed, right, which further increase the company's power, country's power in the region. And again, the propaganda machine is connected to it also, because the press in our country is only going to present one side of the story. You're not gonna hear the Russian side unless you go to the Russian sites or countries that have a opposite ideology to the United States stance. It's just like I remember when the whole thing was going down after like 9/11 and all that stuff like that. I noticed every time they would show like Arabs in the media, they always show them like being real rowdy and like chanting and like putting signs up and down in the air, and they showed them like it's just looking wild all the time. The imagery is very powerful. Like I know a lot of people from different Arab countries, right? Jordan, Yemen, things like different places. I've never seen that before. Never seen. See, you can make any group of people look like you want them to look if you have an agenda, because you can always pick that worst element of the society. This is what's happening to black people for the longest. You just take the worst element, right, the lowest denominator of the society, and constantly put it in the media. Then the rest of the world thinks like, oh, this is how this society is. They're always committing crimes, right? They're always poor. They don't have any intelligence, right? There's no scientists, right? They're just athletes and entertainers. They can run fast and they can entertain. That's about it. There's no scientists, and no black scientists or heads of industry or things like that, or black guys on Wall Street or in outer space in this NASA space program, because you never see it. So it's the same with this stuff. It constantly hits you, right? Support Ukraine, and whether you support it or not, that's not the question. The question is, why are you being presented? Why are you being told so adamantly to support it? That's the thing. And like I said, hopefully this little video have you think a little bit. Maybe you go into your own rabbit hole. Again, we could look at other bills. Maybe I will if I find something interesting. But like I said, you look at all these things right here. Like the next bill, starting from the bottom going up, is the Clean Energy for America Act. Again, that sounds positive. Like who doesn't want clean energy? You know what I mean? But when you look at the details, that's when you find out. You find out the details, what's going on. That's when you really find out what's going on, right? And again, this is just 2021. We can look at all of these bills, and this is really how the country is being run. And this is why I'm not a big believer in the voting system as it exists. It's just too much money at stake. Again, the republic that we're under, where we elect representatives, is too fragile and easy to manipulate. Electing a guy to the Senate, right? Each state, right, will have 2 senators. Again, they're supposed to represent the interests of that state. I mean, how easy is it for multinationals, right, and lobbyists, to I don't want to use the word corrupt. I'll say influence that individual to support certain things that are against the people's interests. It's very easy, and this is what goes on. And again, they know it's going to be against the people's interests, so what they do is they just keep it out of the sight of the people, out of sight, out of mind. I'm sure many of you didn't even know about this stuff. Some of you did, right? But I'm sure many of you didn't know. So it's like out of sight, out of mind. And then when you do, those of you that do get a chance to see, you're seeing such a propagandized version of the information that you immediately fall in line with the narrative and support everything. Oh yeah, that's right. These guys are evil. We need to take their private jets and yachts. They don't deserve this. They're money launderers. They're evil, right? Fall right in line with it instead of asking the question like, wait a minute, what is that energy like for just issues that are here at home? Why don't we taking that same energy to help these disabled veterans out here that's walking around with PTSD, mentally ill, right? Why aren't we using that same energy to address the border situation? Why aren't we using that same energy to address the economy and inflation, student debt, American problems, Skid Row, Kensington, and Philadelphia? Why aren't we using that same energy to address these situations? You see, that's because there's not millions and millions of dollars involved in it to be made. There's no investment to be made. No come up to be made. There's come up to be made investing in Pfizer, right? You get these laws passed. There's a come up to be made there. And then this is another big rabbit hole. But there's certain sites you can look at to find out what the resources that certain countries have. Ukraine is full of resources, man. Full of resources. It's like Africa. That's why Africa is so valuable. All the resources. Ukraine is full of resources. Matter of fact, I'm gonna take a second. I'm gonna look at that real quick. So just real quick, just a cursory Google search, man, of Ukraine's resources. What is Ukraine's biggest resources? Rich iron ore reserves, right? I'm not even gonna try to pronounce all of this stuff right here. It says one of the richest areas of manganese-bearing ores in the world. All right, and there's a lot more resources than that. And if you look at the history of Ukraine, at one time Ukraine was part of the Soviet bloc of nations, and it's just one of those things. A lot of times, countries, as they fall out of power, they might lose certain parts of their what they consider their territory or former empire, and then a new leader will come and he say, you know what, we want to get these lands back into our fold that we used to have. So Russia feels like that about Ukraine. Like it was part of us at one time, and it's complicated. You could look it up. There's many Russians that live in the Ukraine that consider themselves Russian. So you have part that want to be a part of it, part that don't. And so of course, with all these resources and land, of course Russia wants to add them back in, have them back into the fold, so to speak, right? But for the Western nations, they do not want that at all. They do not want the Ukraine, because again, a lot of money, a lot of investments. Because if the Ukraine falls into Russian hands, that's gonna cut off a lot of investments. Western nations aren't gonna be able to make money in Ukraine like that, because they're gonna get cut off, right? That's gonna become Russian entity. So again, a company like Pfizer knows they'll be cut off if Russia takes over the Ukraine fully, and Pfizer's interest there will be cut off. That gives you another motive to why Pfizer would support such a bill, right? Pfizer is heavily invested in a country like the Ukraine, where they can go there, set up, they have deals in place, right? They can pump their vaccines and things like that. So they're beholden to support that government, and hope that they can win this conflict. That way that they can increase their business there and stay there. Because if Russia wins and takes over, then they basically got to pack up and leave. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you learned something. Please like, subscribe. If you like the video, donate. If you can't donate using the links below, just hit the thumbs up button, and I'll see you guys on the next video. We're gonna look into some more lobbying. I don't know if I'll look into Pfizer again. I'll look into a different company, but again, as you can see, it's a big rabbit hole. Like I said, I know it's a long video, but I'm just scratching the surface of these things. But hopefully it'll help you look deeper into this whole voting and being Democrat, Republican, and all that stuff. And I just want you to see that it really does not make a difference. They are the same, just flip sides of the same coin, man. It's like having a quarter. One side is heads, Democrat is heads, Republican is tails. It's the same coin. These people invested in the same companies and getting the same money. And yeah, there's some differences in ideology, but for the most part, how these laws are getting passed, that you have very little to do with it. You know, you have I put it like this: you have less choice than you think you do. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll see you guys on the next video.